guys, so now that we got that all cleared off, we're going to go ahead and pull the plans up and we're going to rotate them so we can get the opposite wing panel. Because what we need to do is lay it down with the jigs so that we can line everything up perfectly. All right, so now that we have we'll get some new stuff for that. And pull these up. And flip them over so we can get that wing panel 100% in view. Fold that under so we don't take up as much space. As you can see on here, they actually tell you where to put the wing jig blocks. But first thing, we'll put down some wax paper so that we don't damage the plans. Okay, and we'll grab our wing jig blocks here. So we got wing jig number 1, goes right here. We'll go ahead and grab a pin so we can pin that in place. Okay, now that we have those in place, we're going to go ahead and take the wing panel. We're going to line it up on the plans and make sure that trailing edge is resting on the wing jigs. We're going to pin this in place so that it doesn't move while we're working on it. And we do kind of want to keep this down by the at the wing panel, so I'm just going to use a pin straight into the board and just to use the T-pin just to kind of hold that in place. Same back here. Just till we get to the part where we start laying down the sheeting. And then we'll start pulling those up. All right, so now that the wing panel is now pinned down to the board, we're going to go ahead and there's a hardwood block that has to go up here, hardwood block that goes back here, and those are for the wing mounting points. So we'll go ahead and do those first. We're going to use a 5-minute epoxy for those sections. Put that right over here. And we're going to be using the brush like I did last time to spread it around. We'll go find the wood blocks here. I have those wood blocks right over here. So this piece right here just goes right between these two ribs, just like so. So I'm going to have to sand that one just a little bit to make it fit a little bit better. So we'll grab the sanding block here. Because we're going to slide this all the way as far back onto the wing panel as we can, but without it going above the wing rib, as is stated in the book. Okay, so that one's sanded to the right shape. This one now goes up towards the front. And of course, you got to get the right angles here. Okay, and that looks like it's going to need to be sanded a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and mark this. And I'm going to go ahead and over to my sanding disc there, and I'm going to bring that back down to the right spot. That looks pretty close. We're going to do the finishing and sanding this way. Again, it's almost perfect there. Needs to come down just a little bit more. I think we just about got that. So we're going to go ahead and get this ready to glue into place as well. And these will be the mounting points for... Those will be the mounting points for the wing onto the fuselage. We're going to use a, like I said, 5-minute epoxy. Alright guys, so now that we have those two blocks epoxied in place with the 5-minute epoxy, we're going to let that, give that a little bit of time to cure. Once those are hardened in place, we should be ready to start moving on to the next step. We'll grab the book and we will double check on what we need to do. Okay, so the next thing that they want us to do is to go ahead and we'll start working on the aileron over here. So we did have a piece that, if you remember, we set aside. I'm going to take a piece of scrap 3/32 here, and we're going to space that out, because that piece goes right in here. And then it gets lined up in place, but without gluing that piece in, right there. That gives me the gap that I will need for when we cut the aileron off. So we're going to grab the thin CA to do this. I'm trying to keep the tip on this as clean as I can here. Grab the my needle tips. Slide that on over. And we will cut the tip off so we're ready to start using it. Okay, now that we have that in place, it's lined up, I can start feeding a little bit of thin CA into that. And same down at this end. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull this piece out, because once I get this glued in place, we're going to go ahead and pull that out. And now I can go ahead and feed the thin CA along there. Press it against the sheeting. Okay, so now what they want you to do so that you can find that spot later is take a T-pin. You're going to put marks through the sheeting so that you're able to locate that at a later time, because we're going to have to cut that out. Now, the other thing that I was going to look at, and that I did on the other one, is we took this block here, and what this is for is your aileron block, for your control horn. They wanted you to drill off to the side, so you have very little left on there. I like drilling more or less in the center, and I'm going to have my aileron linkage come out on the side and come out on this way. So, in order for it to line up, I had to cut into the rib here for the aileron and glue part of that into it. So about 3/32 of an inch over to the side. And then it lines up perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and drill that horn out I want to make sure I have the right size, so I'm going to grab my control horns over here. I'm going to need a 5/32 drill, which I believe is already in here. And I'm going to trace where I need to cut this out. I'm going to use my X-Acto blade to do so. Okay. Not a problem. So, that's been fixed. Now we can go ahead and clean this out, because to get this block in there, it needs to be flush against the sheeting of the tower on here. Alright, so we'll need a little bit more 5-minute epoxy. Okay, and so that I can locate that hole on the other side later, I'm going to go ahead and stick a pin right through the center here. And then what I'll need to do is I'll need to get a piece of wood that I can then sand down to be flush. Okay, we'll let that cure now. I'm going to sand that down to match the rib. And I believe that is all that needs to be done on the inside of the wing before we start sheeting. I do need to make the wing tube part here. So there's going to be a tube that's going to be made out of paper to go right through this hole, here, 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 and then into the servo bay. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. And it's just made out of regular brown paper, nothing fancy. And then we'll cut it down to the right size that we need. Scissors here. Scissors back. Okay. We're just going to roll this into a tube. And like I said, this is just to guide the servo lead into the wing and into the servo bay without getting caught up with all the ribs and everything. Okay, so now that we have that part completed, we have the tube in place, we have these are glued and dry now. Here we go. We can go ahead and take these clamps off. All of this is now cured. Go ahead and pull this out. Okay, so now we have the hardwood mounts are all glued in place for the wing mount joining, or for the wing mount. And also for the aileron. Those are all completed. So after that, what we do, we take a look at the manual here and we'll go to the next step to make sure that we're not missing anything. We follow the same procedures in regards to sheeting. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. We'll go ahead and start sheeting this side of the wing, which will, at that point, lock this in place. Permanently. So, go ahead and line this up. sand this notch off, so we're going to go ahead and do that off camera, guys. Okay, so now that we put some wood glue in there, and I've CA'd both the sheet into the leading edge and to the spar itself, we're going to go ahead and let that cure, and then we're just going to continue on with the rest of the sheeting. And I'm not going to talk too much during the sheeting process, because most of this is just a repeat of what was on the other side, and we already went over that on the last video. So this one, we're just going to kind of just go ahead and sheet it, get it done, get it out of the way, and then we'll start talking about how we're going to do the wing joining a little bit later on. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and stop the camera. We're going to go ahead and finish. I'm going to finish the sheeting on here, and then we'll come back once all of this is done. So stay tuned, guys. So we got everything pretty much set for sheeting on the top of the wing. We're going to let this dry overnight. Maybe tomorrow or maybe this Saturday we'll have time to finish cutting out the aileron for this wing, and then we'll start looking at doing some the parts for joining the wings together, getting those epoxied, trial fitting everything, and then we'll be ready to start moving forward to finishing and even to covering fairly soon. So with all in all, build's actually been going a lot quicker than I thought it would be. You know, there's not that much to do. Definitely have some finishing to do here on the sanding. We have to cut out the aileron, get the servo mount completed, just like on the other one. The servo where the lead goes through and comes out, we'll have to play around with that and get that matched up. But yeah, so that's all we're going to get done for today. We will catch you on Saturday, and we'll get the rest of this done. Maybe we can get the wings joined together this weekend. Oh, and next, on one of my next videos, I'll have a surprise. And I found another ARF. It's an ARF kit, but another plane that I have been looking for quite some time. Again, I had it. It was actually one of my first larger scale airplanes that I had. It was an ARF, but it flew great. And unfortunately, they don't manufacture it anymore. But keep an eye out, and we'll see what it is. See if we can't get that airplane in the air as well. So, without further ado, guys, see you next time on the video. We'll get this wing joined then. Hey guys, so I went ahead and I did a little bit more work off camera. Some of it was sanding, and then also I did the wing joining here because I was working against the clock with regards to the epoxies and everything. So I went ahead and did that off camera. But needless to say, basically all it is the wing joiner dihedral brace. I had to sand it down to fit in between the spars a little bit. Once I got that fitted nicely, I went ahead and got the epoxy. 30-minute epoxy is what I'm using. And it's just the BSI Bob Smith Industries epoxy, 30 minutes. And went ahead and epoxied the wing joiner into the wing rib between the spars, and then glued it together. So it's using one of the spacers here in the back that's designed for when you're building the wing upside down. Use that jig here right in the middle in the trailing edge where the two join together, which then keeps the ribs and the wing itself perpendicular, parallel with the work surface here. Once I got that on, I went ahead and weighed it down, pinned it to that piece, epoxied, using my wax paper here to protect my bench and also make it to where it's easy to take things apart. Weighed everything down and pressed it together. I have a clamp on the trailing edge. The front leading edge, I had a clamp in there, but the 30-minute epoxy is just about cure now, so I was able to just go ahead and take that that clamp off. But all in all, it's holding together really good. I got it clamped in there in place, and we'll let that cure 30 minutes. And then I also filled the little bit of a gap there. It was maybe about a 1/16 of an inch gap when the wing is set there. So I sanded that as most I could to get that as close as possible. Still left a little bit of gap, but I didn't want to leave that gap. So I went ahead and I mixed up some micro balloons and epoxy. So you can see here I have the Top Flight micro balloons filler. Mixed that with the 30-minute epoxy. Made it a nice thicker consistency, and then was able to spread that and shove it down in there. That'll add a little bit more surface area to hold those together. This glue joint isn't the main joint that holds this wing together. There's the wing spar that goes between, that glues to the main spars. And then on top of that, I'll be taking a fiberglass in the bottom of the wing prior to putting the belly pan on. So then I can sand that, cover it, and you won't even know that's there. And that'll look nice. So that part's done. I did not get to the aileron hinging yet for the left wing. Still got to get that part done. That'll be next. I'll probably start sanding this while this is drying. But of course this one is already done and ready to go. So we're good. We've already hinged it and everything. So, but at least on this one I might be able to at least get started on doing the sanding to get that rounded over and get the center line, and then we can get the hinge points in there as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around. I got the landing gear block on the tail completed, and I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera around over there, and we'll take a look at that as well and show you how I made that. Because I did that off camera between going to work and in the morning. So we'll go ahead and take a quick peek at that and go from there. Okay, guys. So really quick, just want to do a quick update of where the status is of the Giles right now. We did get a lot done today. So I'm just doing a promptu really quick, holding the camera. So I know you guys, some of you don't really like that because you guys get motion sickness and so on, but just really quick. So we got the wing is joined now and fiberglassed in the center section to hold that wing section together. We still got to do the belly pan, close up the front end, drill out the holes. So there's still quite a bit of work still to do. But it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around so you can take a quick look at it, see what it is, see how it looks, and go from there. Okay, so stay tuned. All right, so as you can see, the wing panels are joined together, and as you can see right here, we got the fiberglass. Fiberglass is all done there. That black mark is where the wing tube is, where the wire is. Wires are going to go through right there for the servos coming from the tubes here. So those go right there. That's where I need to drill one on either side for the aileron linkage, or the aileron wires to go through. But as you can see, I got it weighted down right now. It's sitting on top of things because I have fiberglass at the top and I have fiberglass underneath under there. This is going to get cut off because there's going to be a panel that goes here, which allows me to add those stringers for the panel right here. So that'll be coming up in the next video probably, getting that all finished up. The fuselage, we got the fuselage all pieced together. I got the landing gear block on there. I showed you in that last section of the video there. Sorry, I got the garage door open, but yeah, so we have this area is all fiberglass now. Waiting for that to cure. Once that cures, then I can sand it down, get all this excess off of there with sanding. Get the that way this is all sealed now with polyester resin, so it's nice and clear and fiberglass and sealed from fuel. That's what I was trying to get to. I still got to seal the inside in here, but I haven't done that quite yet. We got to flip the plane over and get to that stage, but still trying to decide how I want to do the inside of the cockpit area here. Do I want to just cover it and just put a panel here for the pilot, or do I want to sheet that and then cover it? So I got to figure that out, but I got time for that. That's all looking pretty good. We got this area is all nicely blended in. Can't even feel the difference. Same with where this lip comes down here. Can't feel that either. So that looks really good. I do also need to add a piece of 1/4 inch balsa stringer right along here because I want to add a little bit extra meat for the canopy here to adhere to, not because it's cut really thin here, pretty close. So having a little extra meat there isn't going to hurt anything. It's not going to add that much weight, so but that'll add that up to that really nice. And then, like I said, down under here, this is the where the tail wheel assembly is. So we added that hard balsa block there to not add too much weight. I understand it is going to add some, but tried to minimize it as much as I could. So we added that. That's going to add a nice strong point for the tail assembly to be mounted to, so that shouldn't break ever. May have to refigure out how I'm going to do this. This might be a little too close. So I may end up pulling this piece off and maybe attaching a little bit further back here. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to kind of see how that works out. But nonetheless, we'll get that all set up nicely. None of this is glued in place yet. I still need to get the wing mounted first. Once I get the wing mounted here, then I can make sure that this is aligned with that. And so this way I can sand this gap at any point. I can go ahead and sand this gap a little bit to adjust this from left and right before I get that epoxied in place. Also want to go ahead and get this all covered up. Now, one thing I am trying to decide on is whether or not I want to fiberglass and paint this and blend it into the canopy. And same with the turtle deck up in the front, and then blend that in. But that's going to be a lot of work to do for this size airplane. I'm not sure it's really worth it. So I might just go ahead and just do the covering like normal on here. And then if I beef this area up for this to attach to, and then paint a seam around it or a frame around that, that should look okay. I think that'll be just fine. We'll get everything else all set up and mounted, glued in place. Everything will look really nice. Let's see, anything else that... No, I think that's about it. And if you saw the last video, I talked a little bit about what my color scheme was going to be. I have that printed out right here. So what I'm thinking about doing is the white on the bottom, blue stripe, and then red on top. And that'll blend into what I already have there. For the wing, I'll just do a white stripe in the center with the blue stripe separated in the red and the blue, or in the white. Same on the tail. So basically back here, we'll go back here, and I'm going to add a white stripe right here with the blue on either side of it to kind of match this here. And yeah, and then the white along the bottom. And then the bottom of the wings are going to be this checker on the bottom, similar to what I have down here already, like that, but on the bottom of the wing too. So that's what we got going on. That's all we have for today, so make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell so you get the notifications, and then also comments down below. I am listening to them, so I want to kind of do a little bit more how-tos, but I do really want to get this plane done, so that's why I'm kind of going through it a lot faster. I did not go over how I was going to do the wing joining over there, but basically just did it by the book, man. Nothing really fancy, nothing crazy. Just glued it together the way the book said, fiberglassed it using the polyester resin, and we're going to let that cure. Then I can sand it and then start piecing everything together, getting the wing mounted, and we'll go from there. So other than that, guys, that's all I got for this week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and see you on the next one. Peace out, guys.